Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. Remember to subscribe to our free podcast so you won't miss any of our illuminating content. Here is episode 192.
I was homeschooled until up through 7th grade. Looking back, that is the single thing that I am absolutely most grateful for in my life.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Hannah Phillips. Hannah is a 19-year-old artist, entrepreneur, and college opt-out from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She started her business, Hannah Phillips Media, when she was 16 years old. She offers photography, design graphics, fine arts, social media management services, as well as brand consulting. She's now running her business full-time, and it is her sole source of income. She was homeschooled throughout elementary school, but finished out her educational career with art school, cyber school, and public school all under her belt. Homeschooling allowed her to develop her interests, skills, and passions that she now uses to support herself. She's passionate about sharing her journey with other young creatives, and she wants to help them understand how very possible it is to do what you love. Welcome, Hannah.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show.
I'm really excited to have her too. So Hannah's actually a referral from Derek McGill, because we were actually having a conversation about how a young artist could actually do something that they love, you know, how they can market themselves and really push that envelope to do those things that they love versus trying to have to do the safe job, you know, the safe thing of going to college and all of those types of things. So I'm really excited to hear how you've shaped all that and made that happen. But before we get into any of that, would you please tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 19 years old. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am the oldest of 4. So I have three younger siblings. We're all really close in age and pretty just close in general. We all get along pretty well. I played tennis growing up, so I had a fun little period where I got to teach kids basics of tennis. And I've always loved art, like ever since I could hold a crayon. I have loved art. And now I like to call myself a professional creator because it leaves the door wide open for like anything you may perceive that to be. So, I mean, I take photos, I do a lot of graphic design work, I do a lot of fine art, so painting, drawing, and whatnot. And then I also help my clients with their social media management and their brand reputations and just content planning. So it's really just, I have a lot on my plate right now, but that's how I like it. I like to keep a bunch of irons in the fire, and just every single day looks different for me right now.
That's awesome. In your bio, we talked about, you know, how you were homeschooled and you did all of that kind of stuff through cyber school and different things like that. But give us an idea of what that educational journey looked like that led you to what you're doing now.
Oh my gosh. So growing up, my education was just a healthy mix of pretty much everything. I was homeschooled until up through 7th grade. Looking back, that is the single thing that I am absolutely most grateful for in my life, because it just allowed me to have so much time to develop like these skills and passions that I'm now utilizing daily. And just, I had so much time to create and to do my art and to read. I was a huge reader and still am. And so I feel like I got such a unique opportunity when I was younger to really explore to the full extent like my childhood and what anything was possible, I felt like, when I was younger. And that mindset just kind of stayed with me.
That's cool.
So yeah, and then after I was homeschooled, I went to an art school for 2 years. And then when I was in 10th grade, I went to cyber school, and that's when I started my business, Hannah Phillips Media. And then I finished out my public high school, or my high school career at my local public school. So yeah, I spent 2 years there, and all the while doing my business. So
that's awesome. Well, and yeah, you were talking about, with your business, you were like 16 years old, starting out to do that. I mean, a lot of 16-year-olds are thinking about like guys and, the game on the weekend type of thing. I mean, really give us an idea of what your focus is and how come you decided to start this business.
Yeah. So, I mean, it stems from my love of art. I've always loved to create just ever since I was little, like I said before. But around the time when I was, I'd say 14, I started getting paid for random jobs and projects that were relating to, art or photography or graphic design. And so when I was 16, I finally decided to buckle down and give myself a brand. And it just has really gone on from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. 14 years old. That's great. Well, and we talk about in your bio too, that you're an entrepreneur and a college opt-out. I mean, obviously you're already going on this business, but did you ever feel the draw to have to go to college or kind of round out your education that way?
Of course. I mean, who doesn't? In society right now, like that's just what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to graduate high school and go to college and get a job and get a degree so you can get a job. And I recognized early on that, number one, I'm not the kind of person to be extremely fulfilled by school. I was always really good at school. I had good grades and it was pretty easy for me, but it didn't give me the satisfaction that working did. And so I recognized early on that I didn't really want to go to college, but I still thought I had to. And it wasn't until my sophomore year when I started my business and I talked with my parents and I just said, listen, I really don't think I want to go to college. I don't want to go down that path. I want to see what I can do on my own. And so we started looking into alternatives and they were super supportive and that was great. But for me personally, I know how not easy, I'm not going to say it's easy, but how possible it is to be successful, to get a job, to make a living without a college degree. I think it is more attainable than a lot of young people think it is. I don't think anyone focuses on their most marketable skills and traits. Like, I'm sure that no one has even thought of that in high school. Meanwhile, that's like all I was thinking about growing up. I said, okay, so how can I use this to make money? How can I use this to support myself? How can I use this to be happy and to like live the life that I want to live? And I think I definitely had a unique perspective and homeschooling gave me that. But yeah, it's very attainable to, and realistic to not go to college and to not have a degree and yet still get a job. As long as you have a value creation mindset and are able to harp on certain marketable skills and traits that you have and develop those, it's very realistic.
That's awesome. Well, and I love how you credit homeschooling for that, because I think it's just a natural byproduct. Like you said, that you had a lot of time to explore and to think about things and to really think who you were and the things that you loved. And then also looking at what you're doing. I love the questions that you talked about, of needing to find out what makes you happy and what, direction that really drives you and those types of things. When we were talking with Derek, I actually brought up fine art or art in particular, because I know a young lady that she's just an incredible artist, but she's feeling a lot of pressure to have to go to college to get like the safe job, to get the job.
Right.
Let's kind of move into the challenges that you had along the way, because I know, it sounds easy. Oh, I started, people started asking me at 14 and then by 16, I decided. So it just sounds like, it's just going along, but let's talk about maybe some of those challenges you had along the way and what you feel like you've learned from them.
So this is going to sound really weird, but I honestly think the biggest challenge that I faced as I was finishing out my high school career was finishing high school. That was the hardest thing to do for me, not because of the classes or my grades or anything, because school was always easy for me. It was just a certain point in my senior year. I want to say it was the beginning of second semester. I had 4 part-time jobs all at once, plus I was running my business. I was just like this workhorse and just a machine, like steamrolling any expectations that anyone would have for a high school student who's like also working, and just finishing high school was the biggest challenge. Like I was so mentally checked out that all I wanted to do was work. And I also, I'm a little strange in the way where like I just genuinely love working, whatever job it is. I like making money. I like, delivering a valuable product for someone. I really like to work. And so, I was sitting in 5 hours of classes every day that were going to be absolutely useless in my future. That was the biggest challenge for me once I actually focused and knew what I wanted to do and knew that I could do it. And like I said, like I did have all these different jobs, and luckily I was able to leave early actually every single day. During my senior year, I left the building at 12 o'clock because I had this work permit, this release thing. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge for me was just mentally forcing myself to stay in the high school mindset. But business-wise and career-wise, the biggest challenge was probably just balancing everything. Yeah, looking back, I have no idea how I was able to keep four jobs on top of running a business. But yeah, I think having a really efficient scheduling or like calendar system, it's a little bit not naive. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It's a little basic, but I still rely on Google calendars. Like that is all I use. But I use it religiously. Like every single thing I have to do, it goes in my Google Calendar.
That's cool.
And I've been doing that since senior year. And I just, a lot of high school students, they have their planners and they physically write things down, and that could work for them for whatever schoolwork they have to do. But anything outside of that, I would say keep it all in one place, keep it separate from your schoolwork, and just stick to it, check it regularly, and stay on top of everything.
That's awesome. So basically, what I'm getting from what you learned from this challenge of needing to finish is that you learned really how to schedule your time, because, you had to fit the other stuff that you wanted to do in with the grind of the high school. So awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Well, and we mentioned in your bio too that, you've done homeschooling and you've did art school, cyber school, and public school. How do you feel like your paradigm of education kind of changed over time and with experience? Did you start out really hard-nosed homeschooling where the mom, your mom's kind of telling you all of what to do, or was it more lax? Give me an idea of what that looked like.
It was pretty relaxed. My mom was teaching all of us, like me and my 3 younger siblings, up until my 7th grade year. And then after that, we kind of spread out. Like people did cyber school, and a couple of my siblings went to public school. So it just, after I was in 8th grade, it kind of spread out. But up until that point, it was pretty relaxed, easygoing. And the thing that I loved about homeschooling was schoolwork took 2 hours tops. And just because I don't think people realize, especially kids who have been going to public school their entire lives, like how easily you can retain information and how efficiently you can do so with like methods that aren't used in traditional classrooms. So yeah, my schooling took about 2 hours top daily. But like for my set of beliefs with education in general, just in the past year alone, like after being outside of it all, my mindset has changed completely on what I think of when I hear the word dropout. And like that, when I was, back in elementary school, middle school, and even early on in high school, when I would hear the word dropout, it brought on the typical negative connotations that you would think. And now just being around the people in practice, which it's the apprenticeship program that I'm doing. And almost everyone in there is either a college opt-out or a college dropout. Just being around these incredibly smart, productive, just really stellar people and go-getters, it's completely shifted the way I think of the word dropout. And if anything, I look up to college dropouts and opt-outs if they have a precise plan and know exactly what they want to do and know that they can achieve that without going the traditional educational route.
Yeah, it is a hard thing. I mean, we've kind of even us people that have been homeschooled or done that. I mean, we equate success with college, or college with, if a person who goes to college is obviously successful, is what we've all been told and what we all feel like needs to happen. And so somebody to make up that decision, make up their mind and know what they want to do without college is really, that's a really, unique idea. And so, yeah, definitely. And I've always thought that too. Like before I met Derek and some of the praxis people who talked about being a college dropout or opt out or whatever, phrase they want to use. I always thought that, you just think of failure, that they couldn't hack it or something like that. And so,
yeah, right.
So awesome.
Right. And, people think that, oh, you're a college dropout. You want to start your own business. Okay. Well, you're no Zuckerberg. Don't get ahead of yourself here. But it's true. Most of us are not Zuckerberg, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be flipping patties at McDonald's our whole lives.
Yeah.
It's just, there's this vast middle ground that people have no idea what it contains except for those that are in it. And right now I'm in it, and it's a wonderful, productive, exciting, entrepreneurial place.
Yeah. Well, and it is an education that you gain through experience that you can't get just sitting in a classroom and hearing about it. That's
absolutely
the difference. Yeah. Great. Well, let's talk about your business a little bit. We talked about you're doing all kinds of art and all the things that you love with that. Tell us what you've been doing, some of the services that you offer, maybe, and some successes that you've seen.
Yeah. So just to run down this crazy list again, I offer photography, graphic design, fine art, so drawing and painting, and then social media management and brand consulting. So it's a lot, and it keeps me happy because just day-to-day tasks look different. So that's fun, but it's hard to pinpoint specific successes or wins, I guess, just because everything kind of runs together at this point. But right now I'm kind of in the heart of my photo season, or I'm about to get there. June and July is really photography focused. I'm the what they call a press aide for the USTA, the United States Tennis Association. I'm a press aide for them for this professional tennis tournament held in Pittsburgh. And I've been doing that for the past couple of years, but I take all the photos for that and I have to write the press releases, and that's cool. Coming up at the last weekend in June. And then I have, I work for this professional ultimate Frisbee team in Pittsburgh called the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds.
Oh,
and I am one of their photographers. So that's fun. And they have a bunch of games. And then of course, senior season. So I take a lot of senior pictures in the next couple of months. So I'm really approaching this massive photo season, and I know it's all going to pile up and it's going to get overwhelming, but I can't wait because I love it. So that's what I'm getting into right now. But recent successes, oh man.
Well, I think I think it's successful that you can be so young and ask to be paid for stuff like this. A lot of people just go out and they'll do it for free, but not, especially with art, I think we kind of have this mindset of oh, it's not really a job, and a lot of people do that for free. Did you find that difficult to ask to be paid?
No, not at all. I don't know why. I think a lot of what people interpret to be really big challenges as a freelancer, I just kind of take in stride and don't bother. It's different things that kind of get in my way. It's not so much the actual transactions of like business transactions and the tasks themselves, but it's more back end stuff like, managing a website and updating this and keeping track of all my expenses. And that's what I'm such a creative thinker that when it comes down to the nitty gritty business back end details, like that's more of a challenge.
Yeah.
But no, I think in terms of like recent successes or wins, okay, I actually have one. My biggest highlight or win of 2017, and I'm honestly giving this for nothing will be able to top this for the rest of the year, and I don't mind it at all. Was I sold my first like real piece of artwork this year for like
cool.
a pretty hefty price, and I did that. It was a surprisingly emotional win for me. Because I just like saw my childhood dreams like coming true before my eyes, like looking at my Etsy shop. I was like, oh my gosh. But no, that was probably my favorite win thus far.
Well, and how have you been able to get your artwork out there? I mean, you mentioned you had an Etsy store. Is that correct? I mean, How do people know about you? And
yeah, I update my Etsy every once in a while, but really I get like 75% of my new clients through Instagram, whether it's photo jobs or design jobs or like art commissions. Like I get a ton of work through my Instagram page because that's the social media platform that I really choose to hone in on and focus on, and I update it regularly.
So do you do ads? I mean, how do people find you on that?
I don't do ads. I don't do promotions. When I'm on Instagram, after I, post for the day, I usually spend about 10 minutes trying to find new accounts and like new networks and follow different people or just comment on some of my other favorite artists' pictures and just try to maintain a decent, like positive presence on there. And that usually, like, people find me all the time just through doing that. They'll say, oh, hey, I saw your comment on so-and-so's page. Like, I love your photos. Let's grab coffee or let's do this. I'd love to set up a shoot or something. So.
Oh, wow. That's neat.
Yeah, it's surprisingly that happens more often than anything else when it comes to bringing in new clients.
That's cool. Well, and I really think that like young people have that advantage to be able to do what they want if they really know how to use the social media. I mean, the technology that we had. I was talking with Derek about how I saw a picture of a teacher. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was just thinking of this in my head. But somebody had posted on Facebook this picture of this teacher, and she had this little box for each person's cell phone to go into, and everyone's like, oh, give us a like if you think that this teacher is brilliant. And I'm like, no, this teacher is not brilliant because I mean, let's go back to horse and buggy when these kids, this is their world. And even though, they don't want them texting or they don't want them doing this or that in class because it's distracting them,
right.
To go back to the pen and paper when they've got a miniature computer in their pocket. I mean, how awesome is that? I mean, do you find that
crazy?
Do you feel like kids are challenged by that because, they're constantly being told to put down their stuff? Or do you feel like maybe they just don't understand it well enough that they're kind of wasting time? I mean, that's what I guess a lot of parents fear is that kids are just wasting time on computers or social media or whatever. But it sounds like you've been able to really hone in on it. I mean, where it's helping you create value for other people.
I think it depends entirely on the intention of the time spent on social media. So like I try hard to limit myself and only use it for the intention of like getting my work out there and networking with my favorite artists and just like meeting new people. And I've been able to do that successfully. But I go back and forth with like using phones in class just because I totally understand like from a teacher's perspective how it could be a distraction.
Yeah.
But
well,
if
and
your
my kids
students
mention
are
that
still,
too. I mean, they even at church, they go to church and kids have their, their phones and they're like, "Oh, I'm reading my scriptures, I'm doing whatever," and they're like, "No, you're not. You're totally playing on this game." I mean, they're distracted by
Candy Crush.
Yeah,
I don't want. Yeah,
yeah, they're totally distracted by their peers with their phones too. So yeah,
right.
I see that it could be either way, but
yeah, it just honestly, in my opinion, if your students' grades aren't failing, like if the performance of your students are actually like average or above average or whatever, if they're not hurting, then why change anything? Like if they're still getting the work done, then just don't even bother. It's just going to cause drama, cause trouble by prohibiting them from using something that actually is like an enormously powerful tool if people knew how to use it correctly.
Before we go on, please listen to these messages. Student loan debt is in a collective $1.4 trillion, with 25% of graduates still struggling to find meaningful employment. Instead of being a statistic, live life by your own terms and join the intellectually stimulating collaborative community of Praxis. While getting a paid apprenticeship with the dynamic growing company, Praxis participants receive intensive professional development that they describe as freedom, empowerment, creativity, progress, achievement, inspiring and challenging, that leads directly to a full-time job. To learn more about how you can ignite your future with this fire-starting collaborative community of Praxis, go to discoverpraxis.com/mind and view exclusive information for Luminous Mind listeners. Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Hannah Phillips, who's living her passion of possibilities.
As parents, too, we're always worried about our kids having addictions or whatever. But I guess that's one of the cool things about homeschooling is that we do allow, there's a lot of, trial and error type of stuff, too. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's talk about, mentors that maybe you've had. I would imagine as a young entrepreneur, you've got to have some that have really made a significant difference in your success, and maybe give us some of the little tidbits of what you've learned from those mentors.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is no one immediately comes to mind when someone asks oh, who are your mentors, or who do you look up to, or your role models? And I always struggle with this question because there are definitely people that I gain inspiration from, or I find their stories interesting. For one person I love to follow his work is Casey Neistat. He's a YouTuber, he's a daily vlogger, and he puts out a new movie every single day. And I just find that so impressive, and I strive to have that sort of work ethic. So I would say Casey Neistat, while I don't know him personally, and while a ton of other people look up to him and such, for good reason. He's an incredible creative and just a phenomenal filmmaker. But other than that, when I was growing up, I was always pretty introverted, and I was totally fine with that. I still am. I'm a huge introvert. I could honestly go so long without ever needing human contact, which is a little frightening. But but yeah, I was always very much inside my own head, very introspective, and almost in my own little world. So I don't think I ever got consistent, long-term mentorship from another person. I've certainly had, art teachers or instructors in and out in my life, but none that I would, say have been with me the entire ride, aside from my mom, of course. She was A1, day one, just by my side. But And my dad, like my dad was my tennis instructor for the longest time, and he just was super, super inspirational figure growing up, just in terms of like my tennis coach. And he taught me a lot about the game and strategy and mental toughness. So, but yeah, I feel like that's a very cliche answer to say your parents.
No, but it is pretty awesome that we live in a world that we can watch what other people are doing from afar. And I have to say, I'm an introvert too. I mean, I'm pretty outgoing when I'm out with people, but I definitely need some pullback time to recharge my batteries and stuff. And that's really why I love podcasting, because I can just stay home and do it. Yeah, sit in my pajamas
I'm the exact same way. Like whenever I tell people that I'm an introvert, and actually when I forget who I was talking with a client, and we were talking about our Myers-Briggs types, which that's kind of where the introvert extrovert traits stem from. They're part of the Myers-Briggs preferences. And so she was like, "What? You're an introvert?" I wouldn't have guessed that at all, because I'm pretty talkative and I'm reasonably outgoing, and I get along with people when I'm out and about. But yeah, no, I love having alone time, and I'm just able to spend long periods of time by myself, no problem.
Yeah. Well, and I love too, though, that maybe through your educational journey or whatever, that you were able to actually love that about yourself. I think sometimes as an introvert, we get a little, I don't know, especially
conscious of it.
And especially in our day now, there's a lot of like older people that are, they see all these kids texting each other and stuff, and like, we'll just have a conversation with. I mean, there's kind of like a negative feeling towards people who, are really more comfortable being alone. So
yeah, it's so unfortunate too, because I think the ability to just be by yourself and not need to rely on anyone for entertainment or for anything it's such a powerful tool to have. So no, I love being an introvert, but I also love being able to interact well with people. I mean, that's pretty much my job as a photographer. Like, I have to make my clients feel comfortable in front of the camera. I have to be talkative and interactive with them. So I think it goes both ways. Like, there are benefits to being a huge people person, and then on the other hand, I think there are huge benefits to just being able to have your alone time.
Yeah, be okay with yourself. So that's great.
For sure.
That's awesome. Well, and it helps you to not get in relationships that are maybe very detrimental to your mental health anyway. So, anyway.
Definitely.
Well, you mentioned your parents as being mentors. What advice would you give to parents, maybe as far as educating their children? And then maybe tell us, is there anything that you think you'd change about your own education?
I would say to any parent, just encourage your kids to have something to focus on outside of school. Like saying, oh, make your kids try hobbies or get them into different activities. Like, don't force them to do anything they don't want to do, but make different experiences seem appealing. And like, my parents were so awesome with that. Like, we tried so many different things when I was a kid. Like, my mom, she would take us to like the museums and just did all this different stuff that got us interested in new and exciting subjects. And just, I think having things to be excited about outside of school is so valuable. Yeah. And for me, my own childhood, and like, I can't think of anything that I would change, just because I'm literally right where I want to be right now. Like, I dreamed about being here when I was 4, 5, 6 years old.
That's
so
awesome.
I wouldn't change a thing.
That's awesome. Well, I do think that's awesome advice that you give to parents, because I think, especially in our like really critical society that we have now, like, there's so much pressure to have your kids like constantly being like doing schoolwork. Like, that's the only, there are only few things that we deem worthy of time. And so to have a hobby, sometimes parents are like, I mean, if the hobby's video games or whatever, maybe they're struggling with that, but because we are always like, we need to feel like we are, to be a good parent, that we're like, we have to be having our children doing something productive, something that society deems productive. So I think that's wonderful advice, to kind of give yourself permission as a parent to pull back and let your kids have some alone time to figure out what they want to do and have some hobbies like that. That's great. So owning your own business, do you feel like that maybe there's any books that you had to read, or how did you educate yourself on maybe different things that you've had to learn about to be a business owner?
Honestly, even now, most of my education comes through podcasts. I mean, I listen to podcasts all day because it's background noise, and it's whatever I'm doing. I can always focus on the content of the particular show. So I rely on a lot of podcasts for for my education even now. But I loved The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That was such an amazing book. And I reread it like twice, but it talks all about like productivity, and it really personifies resistance, he calls it, and that it's basically just anything that gets in the way of you getting done what you have to get done. So The War of Art was great. And I think my favorite book of 2016 was actually Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. I think I'm saying that correctly. But he is pretty much an expert of, I guess, human behavior, yes, but he is able to literally pitch anything to anyone and make it seem appealing. Like his job is to go into these millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire investors and get them to buy into a new product or company or something. So just everything he had to say on pitching yourself and pitching your own ideas was so fascinating. And it's something that I've really relied on in the past year as a freelancer, because that's definitely something that you have to know how to do, is pitch yourself and pitch your product. So,
well, and it doesn't really matter what business you're in. You have to know how to sell yourself and to communicate well with other people. So. Absolutely. Yeah. So Pitch Anything was such a great read. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to read that one for sure. I'm very intrigued by it. So when you talked about how important your Google Calendar is, do you feel like there are any other habits that you have in your personal life that have been really helpful to your success? Oh my gosh. Getting up early makes all the difference in the world to my day. I mean, because are you a morning person? Are you naturally a morning person? See, I am both a night owl and a morning person. I stay up into all hours of the night, but if I am able to control myself and go to bed like around, I don't know, 11 or 11:30, midnight, somewhere in there, and I'm able to wake up and have my coffee before 7 or 7:30, like that, it's just going to be such a productive day, as opposed to waking up around 8 or 8:30 or 9, because like as a freelancer, I am able to control my entire day. There is, I don't have an office to get to. I don't have a boss yelling at me when if I show up late. Like, I am my own boss, and I've learned about myself that if I am able to get up early consistently, like before 7 o'clock every single day, it makes the biggest difference in my productivity. Yeah, when you're your own person, that's really a very difficult thing, to be able to have to get up, to have that discipline to get up and to get that stuff done. That's great. Well, you talked about maybe that this is like you are living out your childhood dream, but do you have any other maybe long-term goals? I mean, where do you see yourself down the road, and what kind of legacy do you hope that's going to kind of turn into? I don't know if I necessarily rank my goals in terms of like loftiest to most achievable, but most realistic. But down the road, my number one end all be all goal is to be able to paint full time. Art and painting, drawing is it's my one true passion. I've wanted to be a full-time artist like that whenever I was 3 years old, and people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. It was, I want to be an artist just because I love it. I love art and I love reading. So that's my number one goal, is just to be able to paint full time. Before that though, if I keep taking in these side jobs, and right now a lot of my work is focused on graphic design, and I have a ton of freelance clients where I just design logos and
stuff like that. So I would love to get a collection of paintings into a local Pittsburgh gallery. I see that as being like within the next year, I'll be able to do that. But as far as my legacy, so one thing
you're 19. I know that's
no, but surprisingly, I think about this all the time. I really do. I don't know why. But one thing about me is that I am completely in love with the city of Pittsburgh. I bleed black and gold. Just my heart belongs to the Steel City. So, and I was born and raised here and all that. So one thing that I would love to do eventually to I don't know if it's going to be a part of my legacy, but I would love to paint murals around the city of Pittsburgh in different areas. Believe it or not, I already have specific walls mapped out in my head. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I would put there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that I would love to do that. Honestly, my loftiest goal is to have, I don't know if you're familiar with the Pittsburgh skyline at all.
No, I'm actually not.
The tallest skyscraper in Pittsburgh is it's the UPMC building. And just in my head, I think about this all the time. It's just, I want to see HP Media up there in place of the UPMC. That is the
That's cool.
I don't know how or if that's even possible, but that's my biggest goal. Other things Pittsburgh related, I would love to have a bridge named after me, since this is the city of bridges. And I think about creating my legacy all the time and what I'm going to be remembered as, but I ultimately, that comes down to being in Pittsburgh. I want to create my legacy in Pittsburgh. So
that's cool. When you seem so focused, for just being 19 years old, you know what you want, you're going after it, you're doing the things that you love. And I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier, but I just wondered, do you feel like actually going and doing the thing that you love is helping you be more successful? We've talked about the safe career, that safe, type of thing. But do you feel like maybe, especially in art, it's kind of cutthroat for one. And then it's just such
sure.
Like I said, a lot of people feel like they could do the stuff, or especially graphic design stuff, that you could just do that on your own and not need to pay somebody, does having that passion for something actually help you be more successful, do you think?
I think I'm in a unique position where I gave the 9-to-5 life a try for 3 months, and that was with my praxis apprenticeship. And I was supposed to be at this particular apprenticeship for 10 months, but I am kind of unemployable in that department. I actually really liked what I was doing. I was doing a lot of creative graphic design work, blog post writing. I was doing things that I enjoyed for the clients at this marketing agency, but I am not a 9-to-5 type of person. It is just not the best, most productive environment for me. So yes, I definitely think that being able to do exactly down to a T what I want to do is just all the more helping me really, really just strive for success. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, positive vibes, do help create more creativity too. So, it's really in that field. So that's great. Well, before we say goodbye, do you have any final parting words for our listeners? And then give us your contact information, how people can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll leave your listeners with this. Pick out your most marketable trait or skill, whether that's posting to Instagram or writing copy or coding or whatever it may be. Pick out a skill that you can make money with and go out and try to make money with it. It could be as simple as taking a picture of your Starbucks cup and saying oh, look, I have this picture and I can create 15 more like this, and then going to your local Starbucks and saying, hey, is anyone running this particular shop's social media? It's so easy to do. And even if you're not a creative person, there are so many opportunities out there to market yourself. And yeah, so I would say pick out your most marketable skill or trait and go out and pitch yourself.
That's awesome. Well, it kind of goes with the book that you recommended of Pitch Anything, that it sounds like I need to read that. So that's awesome. Well, great. And then give us your contact information. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so people can find me on my website at hannahphillipsmedia.com, or you can email me at hannahphillipsmedia@gmail.com, or hit me up on Instagram and check out your stuff too, just at HP Media. I love Instagram, as I mentioned before. I think it's such a powerful marketing tool and just so visually stunning to be on. So yeah, Instagram is probably the easiest place you can find me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, once again, her website is hannahphillipsmedia.com. She's on Instagram, and her email is hannahphillipsmedia@gmail.com. But we're going to be sure to link all that information that she's discussed today, even the books that she's recommended and different things like that, up on our website as well. But thank you so much, Hannah. It's just been a joy to have you come on and join us and help light our minds on fire about education and ways that we can pitch ourselves and make ourselves more marketable. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Hannah Phillips, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list. Then check out the Services tab to see how we can continue to assist you, our fire starters. Also, to help us continue production of illuminating content, go to the Sponsor tab at theluminousmind.net for more information on sponsorship and affiliate programs. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, and now Instagram. Get our free audio content by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. To help us grow, consider these easy ways. Tell your friends about us, leave us a review, share our content. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.